Hey everybody, CVH here, and welcome to part 5 of our first impression series for Return to Clockwork City, coming to Legends November 30th. If you want to see the first 4 parts to get a good look at what my first impressions were for many of the cards the community's revealed for the past couple weeks, they're all up on the channel, so feel free to check them out. But let's jump right in because we have 5 more cards that have been recently revealed by the community to talk about. Let you guys know what my first impressions are, if I think they're good, if I think they're bad, if I think they're going to be seeing play in many existing decks, if I think they could give birth to some new decks. Let's just jump right in and talk about some new cards. First up today, we have Reverberating Strike, a 3 Magicka intelligence action, which says deal 3 damage to a creature and all enemy creatures with the same name. So, obvious similarities already to Crushing Blow, the pretty much go-to 3-cost action, just 3 cost, deal 3 damage anywhere you want. This card does have some obvious upsides, and one pretty obvious glaring downside compared to Crushing Blow, which again just is the most obvious comparison, so that's what we're going to go with. First off, this card can obviously hit multiple things. Reverberating Strike deals 3 damage to all enemy creatures with the same name. People have talked about this being good against the Imperial Grunts that token decks like to play. But in all honesty, decks are 50 cards, and besides token decks and Swamp Leviathans off of Histgrove, which are incredibly expensive, and this doesn't really do a whole lot to 8/8s, besides those, that doesn't really come up a whole lot in constructed Legends matches, and even less so in Arena, honestly. Compared to Crushing Blow, the obvious downside is that Reverberating Strike cannot go face. It has to deal the 3 damage to a creature, or potentially, yes, a number of creatures, but Reverberating Strike does lose some of that utility. Now, a lot of people have been saying, well, for a control deck, this could just be Crushing Blow with a strict upside, because you don't really want to be going face too often, but I kind of disagree with that, because as someone who's played a lot of Crushing Blow in Control Mage and Ram Scout, yeah, it's really nice to hit those creatures, but sometimes you just need that extra bit of reach on the face, and Reverberating Strike is not going to help you at all. The flexibility is a little bit lower than Crushing Blow, and in my opinion, that may in fact wind up mattering a bit more than the additional effect for Reverberating Strike, but it is really cool card design. Moving on, we have another 3-cost action in Daring Heist. This one is for agility, and it says draw 2 cards. Daring Heist can't be played unless a creature in each lane damaged your opponent this turn. So this one is one of the more universally disliked cards that has been revealed so far. I don't want to say disliked. People kind of like parts of this card, namely the art. Everyone's saying the art is really nice, but everyone's kind of in agreement this card isn't spectacular. There are 3 Magicka or 3 mana, 3 cost in general, draw 2 cards, spells, or actions in a variety of games. Looking at Divination and Arcane Intellect from 2 notable games, Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone. You're probably familiar with at least one of those, so that's kind of the benchmark. And Daring Heist almost hits that benchmark, except it has that stipulation where it can't be played unless a creature in each lane damaged your opponent this turn. So if you want to play this card on curve, you kind of need to have something in the field lane in the first turn and then something in the shadow lane. Then you have to have them both survive, and then you can play Daring Heist on 3. This could be used in the later parts of the game if you're an aggro player. You already have a pretty substantial board. Maybe you have some cheap Nord Firebrands, and then you're playing Daring Heist to reload. But this card, again, similar to Reverberating Strike, loses the flexibility when you can't go face. This card just doesn't let you play it a lot of the time when you really need to. As an aggro deck, sometimes you need the card draw once your opponent's answered your threats, and your board and your aggro start has been sort of dismantled by your opponent's control. You top deck a Daring Heist, that's not going to help you get back into the game whatsoever, because you simply can't play it unless you already have a pretty decent board presence. Some people have mentioned this card could be a decent draw option for Swindler's Market decks, because they tend to have a ton of Nord Firebrands in their hand, and I think that's honestly where this card might see play. I don't think it's strictly terrible, like a lot of people seem to have thought it was, but I do think it is pretty underwhelming unless you're playing a very specific style of deck. Fortunately, Swindler's Market Archer decks have access to tons of ways to get Nord Firebrands, and when you have a handful of those, sometimes you need to keep drawing into some Swindler's Markets. Maybe Daring Heist could be that little bit of extra gas once you get the combo pieces rolling. Third up today, we have Riften Lawkeeper, a 4-cost 4/4 in Willpower. With Breakthrough and Summon, you gain 4 health. I don't dislike anything about the card. There's nothing wrong with this card. It's perfectly reasonable, it just doesn't do anything spectacularly. So while I don't have any glaring problems with this card, it doesn't really do anything wrong. 4-cost 4/4 isn't fantastic, but it is reasonable enough, and it does have 2 upsides, Breakthrough and Summon, you gain 4 health. While all that's going for it, it just doesn't do anything spectacular, and I think if you're a 4-cost Willpower creature currently, In order to see constructed play, you kind of have to do something spectacular because Hive Defender and Cloud Rest Illusionist are doing pretty spectacular things, and not every card can hold a candle to those cards, especially a common. Can't really expect all of them to do that well, and this card is perfectly fine in Arena. 4-cost 4/4 is already something I would take. Breakthrough is an upside. Summon, you gain 4 health. That could be fantastic in Arena, where health gain is just, very important sometimes. You don't get offered a lot of it, and when you get in those race situations, developing a reasonable body plus gaining some health, that's just perfect. A lot of the time, this is going to be exactly the card you want to pick, and it is a common, so it should impact a lot of Arena games. But you look at this card in Constructed, and you're just kind of unimpressed, or at least I am. I don't really think I'm going to be playing this over any other 4-cost willpower cards in any deck, except for the Arena decks. It could be very good in Arena, and it's just sort of, it's not a vanilla. Obviously, it does have 2 effects. They're just not great. It's just an okay card that I expect to see play in Arena probably, and not too much in Constructed. Fourth up on today's list, we have Reconstruction Engine, another willpower card. This time it's a 3 Magicka support with 5 uses, and the activate ability is give a friendly creature -1/-1 and summon a 1/1 Reconstructed Spider. So the Reconstructed Spider is going to be neutral. It's going to be a Dwemer, from what I understand, just a simple 1/1 Dwemer. So this is clearly a card that is meant for those Dwemer strategies. People have noted already that, first of all, this does not damage. So this just makes the -1/-1 effect similar to Curse. While it does make the creature wounded, it doesn't actually count as a point of damage, so you can't just sit there with the Dwarven Centurion and get a bunch of Dwarven Spiders to your hand and a bunch of Reconstructed Spiders on the board. That'd be pretty cool, I agree, but it's not, unfortunately, what this card is capable of doing. What this card can do for you, though, is turn something you have with reasonably high health into a bunch of Reconstructed Spiders, which typically don't matter because you are just trading off the -1/-1 for the 1/1 Spider, except if you're playing a neutral synergy Dwemer deck, because then you can use Halls of the Dwemer, and this card could be terrifying. All of a sudden, you're trading in that -1/-1, and you're getting 1/1s that have increased attack power, and that could, apply a fair amount of pressure. This is support, and it is, kind of slow. It's going to take 5 uses to get the full value out of this card. It's susceptible to support removal, as is Halls of the Dwemer. And on first glance, it's kind of hard to rate this card because currently no deck wants it. I think that's pretty clear. You look at any deck in the meta right now, and no deck wants Reconstruction Engine, except the decks that Return to Clockwork City might actually serve to buff the decks using Halls of the Dwemer. So hopefully we can see some more cards for those kind of strategies, because if we do, Reconstruction Engine could very well play a part. This is one of those cards that you look at and you might be underwhelmed initially, but it could definitely surprise us because the effect could potentially be abusable by who knows what, because we've really only seen roughly half of the set so far. A lot more to be revealed. As of right now, I wouldn't be throwing it in any constructed decks, but with more support, this card could be a major player in certain decks. Number 5, and the last on our list for today, is Dragon Aspect, a 4-cost neutral shout. Level 1 says you gain 3 health and battle an enemy creature as if you had 3 power. And of course, battle is each deals damage equal to its power to the other. Level 2 is you gain 5 health and battle an enemy creature as if you had 5 power. And level 3 is the same, except you gain 7 health and battle an enemy creature as if you had 7 power. So as we're used to seeing, the power of the level 1 shout isn't that great. Most shouts follow this trend. Soul Tear and Drain Vitality are a little bit pushed compared to a lot of the other level 1s, but you're never really going to be excited about playing a level 1 Dragon Aspect. This card does do some interesting things. Obviously, we have the Battle Word again, the ability there, each dealing damage equal to its power. We've seen this with Skyborn Dragon and Duel Atop the World. And now you're getting the ability to sort of fight using you, sort of like how weapons work in Hearthstone. We don't really have weapons that attach to your character, basically, but this is going to battle as if your character had power, and that's pretty cool. You're also gaining some health, so that's pretty much to offset the battling. Basically, if I use this on a 3/3, for example, I'm going to be gaining 3 health and, attacking essentially. It's not really an attack, but it does battle my character against the 3/3, which means it'll be trading off. I won't actually lose any life, and it'll basically act like a Crushing Blow. A lot of cards sort of are similar to Crushing Blow in today's video. This card does cost 1 more Magicka than Crushing Blow, and obviously if you're able to use level 1 or level 2 and you can scale them upwards, they get better. You can also use Word Wall to advance your shouts, as many decks currently do. Level 2 is a lot more reasonable for 4 cost. All of a sudden, a 4 cost action that can simply remove something with 5 health or less, That's pretty solid. Level 3, obviously 7 or less, and it's not simply destroying it, it's a battle, so you could potentially battle using your face, and then use some of your creatures on the board already to finish off whatever creature you wanted to target with that. This card does have some benefits compared to actually attacking. You can get things that are hiding behind guards, you can get things that are hiding in the shadow lane. No problem with that, since you're not actually attacking, you're simply battling. Of course, other removal options like Piercing Javelin can do that as well, so nothing too spectacular there. This does give neutral another way to heal, but I think we already have Glass Helm of Remedy and Dark Harvester are pretty amazing ways for control decks that want to use some neutral heal because they don't have amazing heal in their classes, like maybe Battle Mage decks. Maybe use Glass Helm or Dark Harvester or something like that. And you can usually find heal other places as well in Willpower, Endurance, and Agility. But, you know, another neutral option for healing, it might make sense, but obviously I think the focus of this is the battling, and the health is just sort of to offset that, because this is an amazing heal by itself. You'll typically be taking a hit when you battle anything. For example, a Mighty Ally, a lot of decks use Crushing Blow to deal with Mighty Ally on curve. This doesn't quite deal with the Mighty Ally on curve because it is a 4 cost and Mighty Ally is a 3 cost. And if you're using level 1, you're only gaining 3 health and you're battling a 6 attack Mighty Ally more than likely, so you will be at a net loss of life. So as a removal option, I don't know exactly how strong this is. Maybe we see some Shadow-oriented decks, I'm not exactly sure. I don't think I would play this currently over Crushing Blow in many things. I think the other shouts typically do it better. This reminds me a lot of Fire Breath, actually, you know, kind of comparable to other removal. And yeah, if you can get to level 3 consistently, it could be pretty good, but is it really better than other cards? I'm not so sure. I'm happy to see another shout in the game, happy to see a neutral shout finally. One of the most important things this does is actually provide sort of a stealth nerf to Paarthurnax, because the percentage of you getting exactly the shout you need off of the Paarthurnax, because it does give you 3 random shouts of the currently 5, but now 6 with Dragon Aspect. It just gives you 3 of those to your hand, and 3 copies of them. It could be 3 of the same even, but this does reduce the chance of you getting exactly the shout you need. A lot of the time that's Soul Tear, because people like to do the infamous Paarthurnax Soul Tear infinite loop that just goes round and around. Soul Tear the Paarthurnax into another Soul Tear. Sometimes it's exactly the removal you need, sometimes you need that level 3 Drain Vitality or another Fire Breath or something like that. This does just sort of throw a wrench in some of those plans, and it actually could be something worthwhile, worth getting off of the Paarthurnax as well. On first glance, I think that might actually be the biggest impact of the card. I think if this card sees constructed play, it might actually be off of the Paarthurnax. Not exactly sure what kind of decks would want to play it, but impacting the Paarthurnax odds and maybe coming off of the Paarthurnax are probably where this card fits in for the immediate future. But as always, these are just my opinions, so of course let me know in the comments what you think of these cards, if you like them, if you dislike them, if you think I missed anything, where you're excited to play them. As always, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you did, feel free to leave a like and stay subscribed for more Legends content. Follow my stream in the description. I'll see you next time.